Alright, you want to tell everybody hi?
Hello!
Do you want to tell everybody who you are in case they don't recognize you in your costume?
In case you don't recognize me in my costume, I am Ava!
Can you tell them who you're dressed as?
I'm just as Bumblebee, the superhero. Bye!
Hey everyone, I'm TM Sparrow, writer and homeschooling mom, and today I'm going to tell you all about my favorite paranormal tropes. In case you guys haven't figured it out yet, October is one of my favorite months of the year. There is so much to be excited about, even in the midst of this nightmare that is 2020. I mean, there's Halloween, which is also my anniversary, there's my favorite season of the year, and it's the beginning of just that wonderful time of the year with all my favorite holidays. So, to celebrate this delightfully spooky time of year, and to bring a little positivity to this year, I thought I'd celebrate by telling you all about the 10 paranormal tropes that I think are just the best. And without further ado, let's jump right in. Number 1. The charming devil. Let me tell you, there is just something that I love about a good Lucifer representation. You can make him full-on evil, or go with something a bit more morally gray, but give him charm and charisma, because that's what he's supposed to be, after all. A fallen angel who convinced Eve to take a bite of that forbidden fruit. And there is a lot of potential for metaphor in that. And I love it when a writer explores all of the potential in this side of the story. Now, I'm trying to be careful here, because there's a very fine line to walk here, and it can be difficult to do it right. I'm not saying that the devil is a hero or anything like that. He most certainly isn't. What I am saying is that if you're going to do a story that has Lucifer, remember that he was an angel first, and that he's charming and cunning and sly. And I love it when a story does this right. My two best examples of this done well would have to be Supernatural, because I loved the way that they portrayed Lucifer, especially in the early seasons. And for a more morally gray option, I love the TV show Lucifer, which is based on the comic series from DC. Number 2. White Witches. Media loves an evil witch, and I get it. I mean, that is the lore going all the way back to the Middle Ages. But something that I like to consider is that there are modern witches. Now, there are a variety of beliefs and practices in modern witchcraft. So when I say white witches, I mean more than just Wiccans. Magic isn't inherently bad or evil, and I love seeing that reflected in a story. So, a white witch, or really anything other than an evil satanic witch, is where it's at for me. I'm all about the variety, folks. You can even give me both. Both is always good. I get that tropes and cliches exist for a reason, but sometimes you just need something different and refreshing. And I'm thinking specifically of stories like the movie Practical Magic, or the webtoon Muted by Miranda Munt, which might just be my favorite witch story of all time. Number 3. The Gods Are Real. Oh man, I love a story that writes all of the different pantheons and writes them well. There is so much mythology out there, and while not every myth comes from a culture that's open to their mythology being used in stories like this, a lot of them are, and I am here for it. Like, imagine a Hermes and Loki buddy cop story. The hijinks and hilarity, the limitless potential. I have seen this trope done amazingly well, but I've also seen it done terribly. The same could be said of pretty much every trope ever, though. But when it's done well, it can be so much fun, and the options are endless. For this trope, think of books like Neil Gaiman's American Gods, or basically anything Rick Riordan has ever written. Number 4. More than just vampires and werewolves. Don't get me wrong, I love vampires and werewolves, obviously, but there is so much more lore out there. So yes, I absolutely want good vampire and werewolf stories, but I want to see other things explored as well. And I do love seeing other kinds of shifters too, but even beyond that, witches, demons, fallen angels, fae, gods and goddesses, the Jersey Devil, anything really. Paranormal and urban fantasy is full of so much potential, and I want to see more authors utilizing that. Since it's apparently a thing I'm doing now, I will give you 2 examples that are favorites of mine. First up has to be Patricia Briggs' Alpha and Omega and Mercy Thompson series. While they are primarily about werewolves, they also feature vampires and the fae in key roles. So far, we've also seen ancient deities, river monsters, zombies, dragons, witches, and so much more. I also have to mention Molly Harper's Mystic Bayou series, which features shifters of all kinds and even a tree nymph, while being funny and also sexy at the same time. Number 5. The Masquerade. I'm totally borrowing terms from White Wolf Games here, but the concept of another world that is hidden from the knowledge of mundane humans is one that I love. The layers of secrecy and suspense that it adds are just amazing. Maybe it's nostalgia for my LARPing days with my husband, or maybe it just gives me something to daydream about, but I just can't get enough of this idea of a secret world existing alongside ours. And, of course, I cannot give a better example of this than the White Wolf games like Vampire the Masquerade or Werewolf the Apocalypse. And yes, I'm kind of showing my age a little bit here because I know those aren't the current game titles, but those were what I played. Number 6. Reincarnated lovers. There's just something about 2 lovers finding each other again and again throughout time that really gets me. I'm a sucker for a good romantic plot and soulmates and all that. It gives me all the good feels and I love it. Love is beautiful and sweet and all that other mushy stuff. Add a supernatural twist and it is just perfection. Absolute beautiful perfection. Add in a dash of the forbidden romance and I'm all in. I really only have 1 example for this, and it's not exact, but it is close enough to count. And that is the 7 Deadly Sins anime. Number 7. Humans are the real monsters. This one is just... I love metaphors and messages and themes and all that jazz. So this one just hits me in all the best ways. Don't get me wrong, humans can be pretty great sometimes, but they can also be pretty garbage too. I mean, I can point you in the direction of several true crime podcasts to prove just how awful humans can be to each other. Never mind some of the atrocities of war and the way we've treated the planet, but I digress. The point is, I love it when the monstrous looking creatures aren't the true evil, but an ordinary, average looking human is. It just makes sense in a lot of ways. I think Frankenstein is the most well-known example of this, but I don't really have any other good examples. So someone please point me in the direction of a good story that uses this trope. Number 8, Fallen Angels. I know that I kind of already covered this with number 4, but I really wanted to touch on fallen angels specifically. There was a time, back when I was a teenager, that fallen angels were the go-to creature for paranormal YA. But then the vampire craze hit and they kind of just got left behind. It's also something I'd love to see used more often in adult media. I don't really know why I love them so much. Maybe it's because they're outcasts and I'm a sucker for an outcast. But there is just something about fallen angels that I really connect with. And honestly, my favorite fallen angel story has to be the old Nick Cage and Meg Ryan movie, City of Angels. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and something about it just really sticks with me. Number 9, Folklore and Mythology. There are endless amounts of folklore out in the world. Every culture has its own myths and lore. Yes, I know this is very similar to number 3, but hear me out. I'm not just talking about mythology here. If there is anything that I have learned from listening to podcasts like Lore and Myths and Legends, it's that folklore encompasses so much more than that. Think about things like the Jersey Devil, Bigfoot, and the Chupacabra, just to name a few. There is so much to draw inspiration from and use in paranormal fiction, and I love when writers do that. I've seen characters like Rumpelstiltskin and Baba Yaga used to great effect in urban fantasy, and I am dying to see more of it. Examples of works that I think have used this really well are, again, Patricia Briggs, Mercy Thompson, and Alpha and Omega series. Number 10, Fated Soulmates. Okay, I started this list by venturing into controversial waters, and I guess I'm going to end it there too, because I know that this one isn't everyone's cup of tea. And I also know that when it's done incorrectly, it can be really, really, really bad. But I'm a romantic, okay? And I absolutely believe in the idea of soulmates. So when two people are meant to be together and they just connect on this intimate, soul-deep level, it's beautiful, okay? I just love. Okay, good examples of this trope? I don't really have any. I love the idea of this one, but I've never seen it well executed and not just gross. So, if you know of a book or a movie that does this trope really, really well, then I am begging you to let me know in the comments below so that I can check it out. Please. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Please don't forget to leave me a comment down below with a book recommendation with one of these tropes. And while you're there, you can let me know what your favorite paranormal trope is as well. Or, as always, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. And if you want to see more, then don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos on Wednesdays. See you next time. You want to tell everybody who they are who you are? Okay.
Who they are.
In case you guys haven't noticed, October is one of my favorite months of the year. Bleh. Number 1, the charming devil. And I love it when a show or a book, bleh. Number 2, no. And I get it, that's the lore, bleh, 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 okay. Bleh. And while not all of it comes from cultures that are open to their bleh. And while not all of the myths come from cultures that are open to their stories, bleh, 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 okay. Since it's apparently a thing I'm doing, nah, I didn't wait for that car to go past. I am totally borrowing terms from the White Wolf games here. Bleh. The layers of secrecy, no. Bleh. The layers of secrecy and suspense that it adds are just... No, I'm not doing that. And yes, I'm showing my age with that references. Blech. I love and soulmates and all that other great stuff, and that is not how that line went. I'm a sucker for a romantic plot and soulmates and bleh. Add a supernatural trope, bleh. And I can point you in the direction of a few true crime podcasts, bleh. I mean, I can point you in, bleh. There was a time when I was a teenager when, bleh.